Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel. Uh, Welcome to Saturday live stream, and I know this is a bit of an odd hour for me to do this, but you know, um, anyway, uh, I neglected to get together a comment of the week, but there are some good ones. Hey, Mr. Shadow Kitty, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Um, However, there are some very, very good comments on my edited videos, especially since I've been doing debunks. So, yeah. Uh, Speaking of debunks, I will have another debunk out tomorrow for my members. You can join for as little as 99 cents a month, and it will be out for everyone on Tuesday. And so I will now stop my camera and share my screen. And today we're doing 2 Samuel 21 through 24, and this is the end of 2 Samuel. So we're cruising right along in the Bible. Alrighty. Chapter 21. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. So David sought the face of the Lord. The Lord said, "It is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death." Why? Saul isn't even alive anymore. This doesn't make any sense. Not to mention the fact that David has blood on his hands. Makes no goddamn sense. Honestly, I have no idea what the Bible is trying to convey with all of this utter nonsense. All right, moving on. Verse 2, the king summoned the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now, the Gibeonites were not a part of Israel, but were survivors of the Amorites. The Israelites had sworn to spare them, but Saul, in his zeal for Israel and Judah, had tried to annihilate them. David asked the Gibeonites, "What shall I do for you? How shall I make atonement so that you will bless the Lord's inheritance?" This just keeps getting sillier and sillier. Verse 4, the Gibeonites answered him, "We have no right to demand silver or gold, from Saul or his family, nor do we have the right to put anyone in Israel to death. What do you want me to do for you? David asked. They answered the king, as for the man who destroyed us and plotted against us, so that we have been decimated and have no place anywhere in Israel, let 7 of his male descendants be given to us to be killed, and their bodies exposed before the Lord at Gibeah of Saul, the Lord's chosen one. Whatever. So, hang on. Hey, Krishna. So apparently you can atone for one wrong by doing another wrong. I don't know. Yeah. Saul, who it isn't even alive anymore, killed a bunch of people, which I mean, come on. All the kings of Israel did that, right? And David and Saul, I mean, he did that probably in war, right? David killed a guy to take his wife. What sense does this make? It is utter madness. So anyway, verse 7. The king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the oath before the Lord between David and Jonathan, son of Saul. But the king took Armani and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons of Aiah's daughter Rizpah, whom she had borne to Saul, together with the 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab, whom she had borne to Adriel, son of Barzillai the Meholathite. He handed them over to the Gibeonites, who killed them and exposed their bodies on a hill before the Lord. All 7 of them fell together. They were put to death during the first days of the harvest, just as the barley harvest was beginning. 2 wrongs don't make a right, people. Come on, get it together. Verse 10. Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on a rock, from the beginning of the harvest till the rain poured down from the heavens on the bodies. She did not let the birds touch them by day, or the wild animals by night. When David was told what Aiah's daughter Rizpah, Saul's concubine, had done, he went and took the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead. They had stolen their bodies from the public square at Beth Shan, where the Philistine had hung them after they struck Saul down at Gilboa. David brought the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from there, and the bones of those who had been killed and exposed were gathered up. They buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the tomb of Saul's father Kish at Zelah in Benjamin, and did everything the king commanded. After that, God answered prayer in behalf of the land. I have no idea what sense this makes. I have no idea what sense this makes. So you're atoning for a bunch of killings by even more killings. Uh, hello? Alright. Excuse me. Moving on. Verse 15. Once again, there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. David went down with his men to fight against the Philistines, and he became exhausted. Way to state the obvious. You're gonna get exhausted if you're in a battle, you fucking morons. And Ishbi Beneb, oh God, I love all these names, don't you? One of the descendants of Rapha, whose bronze spearhead weighed 300 shekels, and who was armed with a new sword, said he would kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue. He struck the Philistine down and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "Never again will you go out with us to battle, so that the lamp of Israel will not be extinguished." In the course of time, there was another battle with the Philistines at Gob. At that time, Sibbecai the Hushathite killed Saph, one of the descendants of Rapha. In another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jair the Bethlehemite, killed the brother of Goliath the Gittite, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shimeah, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were descendants of Rapha and Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. Chapter 22. Moving right along. David sang to the Lord the words of the song when the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. He is my stronghold, my refuge, and my Savior. From violent people you save me. I have called to the Lord who is worthy of praise and have been saved from my enemies. The waves of death swirled about me, the torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me, the snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called to the Lord. I called out to my God from his temple. He heard my voice. My cry came to his ears. The earth trembled and quaked, the foundation of the heavens shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his canopy around him, the dark rain clouds of the sky. Out of the brightness of his presence, bolts of lightning blazed forth. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy with great bolts of lightning. He rooted them. The valleys of the seas were exposed, and the foundations of the earth were laid bare at the rebuke of the Lord, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. Sorry about that, guys. He brought me out of a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a god dang minute here. Didn't, hey Lisa, didn't God say there was no one righteous? No, not one. But David's saying he's righteous. Um, got a little bit of confrontation going on there. I don't know. This doesn't make any sense. Of course, it's the Bible. Why would I expect it to make sense? Moving on. Verse 21. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. Uh, David, need I remind you that you killed a man for his wife? I guess you forgot that, huh? Verse 22. For I have kept the ways of the Lord. No, you haven't. I am not guilty of turning from my God. Yes, you are. All his laws are before me. I have not turned away from his decrees. Yes, you have. Oh my God, what a fucking liar. Can you believe this shit? David has the audacity to lie to his God, whom he believes knows he's lying. I know the Bible doesn't make any sense, but at this point, it's not even trying to make sense. Moving on, verse 24. I have been blameless before him and have kept myself from sin. No, you have not. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to my cleanness in his sight. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the devious, you show yourself shrewd. You save the humble, but your eyes are on the haughty to bring them low. You, Lord, are my lamp. The Lord turns my darkness into light. With your help, I can advance against a troop. With my God, I can scale a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless. He shields all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord? And who is the rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and keeps my ways secure. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He causes me to stand on the heights. He trains my hands for battle. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You make your saving help my shield. Your help has made me great. You provide a broad path for my feet so that my ankles do not give way. I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them completely, and they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet. You armed me with strength for battle. You humbled my adversaries before me. You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I beat them as fine as the dust of the earth. I pounded and trampled them like mud in the streets. Um, I thought God hated braggarts. This is like, this isn't David bragging on God. This is David just flat out bragging. I mean, he's saying, I did all this. You know, God didn't do all this. I did all this. Anyway, moving on. Verse 44, you have delivered me from the attacks of the peoples. You have preserved me as the head of nations. No, David, you are the head of one nation, if that. I mean, yeah. Uh, People I did not know now serve me. Foreigners cower before me. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. They all lose heart. They come trembling from their strongholds. The Lord lives. Praise be to my rock. Exalted be my God, the rock, my Savior. He is the God who avenges me, who puts the nations under me, who sets me free from my enemies. You exalted me above my foes. From a violent man you rescued me. Therefore, I will praise you, Lord, among the nations. I will sing the praises of your name. He gives his king great victories. He shows unfailing kindness to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. Chapter 23. These are the last words of David. The inspired utterance of David, son of Jesse, the utterance of the man exalted by the Most High, the man anointed by the God of Jacob, the hero of Israel's songs. The Spirit of the Lord spoke through me, his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke, the rock of Israel said to me, when one rules over people in righteousness, when he rules in the fear of God, he is like the light of morning at sunrise on a cloudless morning, like the brightness after rain that brings grass from the earth. If my house were not right with God, surely he would not have made me an everlasting covenant, arranged and secured in every part. David, you killed someone, like, you know, for no good reason. Then you wanted his wife. Surely he would not bring to fruition my salvation and grant me every desire. But evil men are all to be cast aside like thorns, which are not gathered with the hand. Whoever touches thorns uses a tool of iron or the shaft of a spear. They are burned up where they lie. These are the names of David's mighty warriors: Josheth, Bashebeth, Tacomonite was chief of the three. He raised a spear against 800 men, whom he killed in one encounter. Yeah. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Verse 9. Next to him was Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohite. As one of the three mighty warriors, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines gathered at Pasdammim for battle. Then the Israelites, sorry, then the Israelites retreated, but Eleazar stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. The troops returned to Eleazar, but only to strip the dead. Excuse me. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Herorite. When the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them, but Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field. He defended it and struck the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory. During harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief warriors came down to David at the cave of Adullam, where a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. At that time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the three mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Great, David. So you ask somebody to go get you a drink from the well at Bethlehem. Then, according to your own goddamn wishes, your men risk their fucking lives to get you a drink from the well at Bethlehem, and then you refuse it. Awesome, David. Awesome. Uh, Verse 16. So the three mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David, but he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. Far be it from me, Lord, to do this. Is it not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives? Like, no shit, David. Like, you didn't know they were gonna do that? Like, you knew they weren't gonna do that, you idiot. That's why you said that. Oh, God. It's fucking moronic. And David would not drink it. Such were the exploits of the three mighty warriors. Okay, you know what? I've pretty much given up on trying to make sense of this fucking book, but that has to be one of the more moronic passages of scriptures that I have read. And there's some fucking moronic stuff in this book. Alrighty, moving on. Verse 18. Abishai, brother of Joab, son of Zeruiah, was chief of the three. He raised a spear against 300 men, whom he killed, and so he became as famous as the three. Again, if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you. Was he not held in great honor than the three? He became their commander, even though he was not included among them. Whatever. Verse 20. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, a valiant fighter from Kabzeel, performed great exploits. Oh, great. He performed great exploits. Let's see what great exploits he performed. He struck down Moab's two mightiest warriors. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. And he struck down a huge Egyptian. Although the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club. He snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. He too was as famous as the three mighty warriors. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30, but he was not included among the three. And David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Verse 24. Among the 30 were, oh, goody, we get to hear about the 30. Among the 30 were Asahel, brother of Joab, Elhanan, son of Dodo, That's a fitting name, Dodo, from Bethlehem. I'm not kidding, people. That's his name, Dodo. Yeah, I know, Lisa, right? All right. So, anyway, but swear to God, that's the name, Dodo. Like the dodo bird. At least most of these names are interesting. But come on, Dodo. Verse 25, Shama the Herodite, Elika the Herodite, Helez the Peltite, Ira son of Ikish from Tekoa, Abiezer from Anathoth, Sibbecai the Hushathite, Zalman the Ahohite, Maharai the Netophthite, Heled son of Bana the Netophthite, Ittai son of Ribai from Gibeah in Benjamin, Benaiah the Pirathonite, Hiddai from the ravines of Gosh, Abi Albin the Arbathite, Asmatheth the Barhumite, Eliabah the Shabanite, the sons of Jashan, Jonathan son of Shammah the Hararite, Ahiam son of Shorar the Hararite, Eliphelet son of Ahazbai the Maacathite, Eliam son of Ahithophel the Gilonite, Hezro the Carmelite, Parai the Arbite, Igal son of Nathan from Zobah, the son of Hagri, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai the Beerothite, the armor-bearer of Joab son of Zeruiah, Era the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, and Uriah the Hittite. There were 37 in all. 37 in all? Dude, you just said there were 30. Jesus fucking Christ. These people can't even count. Moving on. Chapter 24. Again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, Go and take a census of Israel and Judah. Because, as we all know, God can't use his words. He's just got to get mad at any little thing. And by the way, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind because I think it's in First or Second Kings that God gets mad at David for taking a census, the same census that God moved David to take. Ugh. Does this make any sense to anybody? Or am I the only one that this doesn't make any fucking sense. Moving on. And tell me about it, Krishna. Alrighty. Um, verse 2. So the king said to Joab and the army commanders with him, go throughout the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and enroll the fighting men so that I may know how many there are. But Joab replied to the king, may the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times over, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king want to do such a thing? Because Joab, God can't use his fucking words and made David do it. That's why. Verse 4. The king's word, however, overruled Joab and the army commanders, so they left the presence of the king to enroll the fighting men of Israel. After crossing the Jordan, they camped near Aurora, south of the town of in the gorge, and then went through Gad and on to Jazer. They went to Gilead in the region of Tatim Hodshi and on to Dan John and around toward Sidon. Then they went toward the fortress of Tyre and all the towns of the Hivites and Canaanites. Finally, they went on to Beersheba in the Negev of Judah. After they had gone through the entire land, they came back to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. Joab reported the number of fighting men to the king. In Israel, there are 800,000 able bodied men who could handle a sword, and in Judah, 500,000. David was conscience stricken after he had counted the fighting men, and he said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. Now, Lord, I beg of you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have done a very foolish thing. David, you did what the goddamn God told you to do. Oh my God, I wish I could drink. All right. Verse 11. Before David got up the next morning, the word of the Lord had come to Gad the prophet, David's seer. Go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you three options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. Ah, so it's not in the next book, it's in this very chapter. What sense does any of this make? Excuse me. So Gad went to David and said to him, shall there come on you 3 years of famine in your land, or 3 months of fleeing from your enemies while they pursue you, or 3 days of plague in your land? Now then, think it over and decide how I should answer the one who sent me. Yeah, God's a dick. God is a dick. Okay, so just in case you didn't, just in case you just came in. Hey, Hans. God moved David to take a census. God did that. Not that this God exists, but that's for another day. So God moves David to take a census. And then God punishes David for taking the census that God moved David to take. What sense does this make? I know I'm trying to make sense of nonsense, but that's just how my brain works. I mean, please forgive me, but but blow my mind. All right, moving on with this nonsense. Luckily, we don't have. Excuse me. Luckily, we don't have much further to go today. Unfortunately, we have a whole book left of this nonsense. Alrighty. Verse 14 David said to Gad, I am in deep distress. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great, but do not let me fall into human hands. Yep, yep. Suck that God dick, David. It's exactly what he wants. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning until the end of the time designated, and 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. So God moves David to take a census. David takes a census. God can't use his words, as we all know. So he gets mad. He decides he's going to send a plague on Israel because David took a census that God moved David to take. And as a result of David taking the census that God moved David to take, 70,000 men, women, and children died. Yep, sounds like the God of the Bible. Verse 16 When the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning the disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, Enough, withdraw your hand. The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Arana the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was striking down the people, he said to the Lord, I have sinned. I, the shepherd, have done wrong. These are but sheep. What have they done? Let your hand fall on me and my family. Yeah, great going, David. After 70,000 of your people die, that's when you say, God, I'm the one that sinned. My people shouldn't be paying for it. Verse 18. On that day, Gad went to David and said to him, go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David went up as the Lord had commanded through Gad. When Araunah looked and saw the king and his officials coming toward him, he went out and bowed down before the king with his face to the ground. Araunah said, why has my lord the king come to his servant? To buy your threshing floor, David answered, so I can build an altar to the Lord that the plague on the people may be stopped. So God requires even more blood to stop the bloodshed. Makes perfect sense. Of course, it doesn't make perfect sense. Jesus. All right. Verse 22. Araunah said to David, let my lord the king take whatever he wishes and offer it up. Here are oxen for the burnt offering, and here are the threshing sledges and ox yokes for the wood. Your majesty, Araunah gives all this to the king. Araunah also said to him, may the Lord accept you. Nice one, Araunah. Just, you know, refer to yourself in the third person like a goddamn idiot. Verse 24. But the king replied to Araunah, no, I insist on paying you for it. I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen and paid 50 shekels of silver for them. David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Lord answered his prayer in behalf of the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. And our reading for today is stopped. Thank goodness. You know, I've read this horrible book before, but every time I read it, it just shocks me all over again. You know, you would think that at some point this book would stop shocking me, right? I mean, I've read it before. I've read it several times before. And you'd think I can't be shocked anymore. But nope. Nope. Somehow, somehow, even though I know the awful, awful things that are contained in this book, somehow, no matter how many times I've read it still manages to shock me all over again. I, what can I say? Look, if this God existed, and I don't believe he does, but if there was irrefutable proof that this God existed, and if he is as horrendous as this book makes him out to be, with hell and everything else, which, by the way, isn't in the Bible. Um, it's made up by the Christians, but whatever. Let's give it to them. Let's give them everything. Let's say hell exists and all that shit, right? Okay. So I would still not worship this monster. I still would not worship this monster. Because you know what? I do not want to live forever with this horrendous God. I don't. And there's no evidence that he exists. But even if he did, I wouldn't worship him. And I know that there are people out there who would to save their own skin. And I understand that. I don't judge anyone if they do that. Okay. But I wouldn't. And luckily for us, it's 99% sure this God doesn't exist. Mainly because this God is um, an oxymoron. So, yeah. So, if this God did exist, you know what I would tell him? Take your fucking gift of salvation and shove it up your ass. Like I said, he doesn't exist, and we can actually be thankful for that. We can actually be thankful for that. Now, when it comes to other gods, there's a chance they could exist. I'm not saying they can't, but that doesn't mean that I believe they exist. And, you know, what else do you want? I can't make myself believe something. I either believe it or I don't. So, anyway, my little girl Callie is asking for the water to be turned on. She likes to drink out of the faucet, out of the kitchen faucet. Don't know why. Uh, but she likes it better than her bowl. And so I'm going to let you go. Thanks for coming. I love you all. And please consider becoming a member of my channel. You can join for as little as 99 cents a month, and you get I'm going to start doing more things for my members, but as of right now, members get early access to my debunk videos. I'm not quite sure when I'll be able to do my other edited videos, but I will be getting back to those as soon as I can. And I will talk to you later. I love you guys, and you have a nice day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Atheist Church. Bye.